Welcome everyone to this new episode of Among Us, Human-Robot Teaming. My name is Filippo Sanfilippo. I'm a professor at the University of Agder, and today I'm very excited to have here one of my best friends and colleague and researcher at the University of Agder, Professor Svein Olav
Nyberg.
Nyberg.
Yes, Gleson's the middle name.
So would you like to say hi to our listeners?
Hello, everyone. It's interesting to be here at Filippo's podcast. He's sitting there, but at the same time there.
So Svein Olav is the author of the Bayesian Way, Introductory Statistics for Economists and Engineers. It's one of the most utilized books at the university here. Is that correct?
Yes, it seems to be. It's used by both like the bachelor students. Well, it's mandatory, so they don't have a choice. And also it's the only mandatory course for our PhD students is statistics, where we're also using this book. And I'm very happy that statistics has been recognized to such an extent at our university.
Very good. Actually, so for our listeners, we're talking now about statistics. How is this related to human-robot teaming? You will immediately find out soon that it's actually at the core of this new revolution that we are working towards together with our team. And Svein Olav has been helping us, our research group, to understand human movements, predictive modeling, so that we can use them to predict trajectories when humans and machines are working together, and integrating intelligent systems to enable seamless human-robot interaction. So his expertise on probability and statistics has helped our research group to progress forward in understanding how humans and machines interact with each other. And on a side note, he's also one of my teachers in Bachata dancing.
Yes, we're hoping to make the complete ultimate Bachata robot at some point where you don't have to worry about humans, you can dance Bachata with a robot, if that's what you fancy.
So basically, he has been leading one of beginner course at the university, and he was the one pushing me into this very nice, intimate dance that we recently used as a way as an inspiration to model the control for human-robot teaming as an alternative to admittance and impedance control. So just to summarize, there might be new listeners to our podcast. I would like to summarize very briefly the concept of human-robot teaming, which is a concept that builds up on the idea of human-robot interaction, or even before, we had robots and machines trapped in a cage, and then at some point we have liberated them. They were completely separated from humans because of safety issues. And then at some point we have liberated them, and we started exploring the idea of human-robot interaction in the literature, and then successively human-robot collaboration. And then at some point, humans and machines actually touched with each other with the physical human-robot collaboration. So with human-robot teaming, we mean three essential concepts. We mean that machines and humans share space, physical space. They share forces. And they finally also share intention. So who is in charge? Who is the leader? Who is the follower? As in the Bachata dance. So that's why, as you can see, the connection, the link with the Bachata dance. And I have to admit that Svein Olav is actually a very good dancer. And just yesterday, he was showing me some images of a few years ago. He said from the 80s, where
Yes,
he was dancing.
Yes. As a student, I did take classes in ballet. It's one of the first things I did at university, aside from actually studying. And I've been asked so many times, how did you look? And I never took pictures back then because that was, for one thing, hideously expensive, and second, I didn't have a good camera. So I decided to regenerate me. And so I used to wear, it was a bit flash dance, a bit 80s, with a pink t-shirt and purple leg warmers. So I looked extremely 80s.
So you asked the AI to generate this photo.
I actually did. And it's in a way, it's like what you say about Bachata. It's like what one person needs, the other one follows. And the interesting thing here, I was using ChatGPT because I got a subscription to that. And when you use an AI like that, of course, you're essentially the leader and the AI is the follower. But I did actually ask it to sometimes swap our roles because the way that it works is sometimes it has to be done in very small increments. And the increments, the AI has, it knows about tools. So essentially I was asking it, can you lead this dance? And I will follow and perform the things that a human needs to do. So we actually did swap the roles. And I wonder if that's actually possible in robotics at some point, because I think in some cases it would be preferable that a robot might know the environment and constraints better than a human who might be accidentally visiting would, so that you switch the roles.
Exactly. So this is actually the point, that the difference of HRT compared to the previous paradigms like human-robot collaboration. So, for example, in this new article that we are presenting about Bachata dance inspired control for human-robot teaming, there is a parameter that we called with the letter alpha of the Greek alphabet, and that letter actually is meant to model this as a slider that you can move left and right, and you can then delegate more or less autonomy from the human side to the robot side. So I think that this is one of the most essential concepts of HRT, because, as you said, for a specific task, maybe the machine has experienced more than the human, and the robot has or the agent, as you said, the AI agent has collected more expertise than the human. So at that point, it's natural that the machine should be in charge, and the human can follow. Vice versa, at some point we could swap these roles. So I think that it is very much at the core of the concept. And for Bachata, this is a little bit rigid, right? It's always the man who is the leader. Is that correct?
Well, so sometimes actually women also, they sign up for courses or they go to dance festivals and act as leader. That's usually because there's a shortage of men. And and it tends to be that it's actually the preferred mode. I've very rarely seen a woman lead and a man follow. There's no formal rule saying that it shouldn't be done, but it seems that for both, it seems to be that both genders seem to be very happy about that precise division, that the males are taking the lead, women the follow role. But it's not written in stone. But also Bachata is created in a way so that the follower is the one who makes the beautiful moves. And if I try to do a beautiful Bachata move, trust me, it's not going to be very beautiful. Whereas women who are often more supple, longer hair, softer features will make the same movement that where I would look like a log that had been drinking too much, then she would look graceful and beautiful. So, so there's a reason for the dance bachata itself is very, for good reason, separated. But other dances might be done differently. But bachata is a good starting point since that's the dance that I introduced Filippo to, and he learned very quickly. I must say that. My commendations.
Thank you, Svein. So, as we can follow our traditional schedule for this episode, and I've formulated 4 points of discussion for you. And the first point is actually very much connected with the concept of modeling and randomness. So, for example, one of our previous joint work was about modeling the trajectories of humans working in an industrial setting where you have different stations and different machines operating in the same area.
Mm.
And one of the idea there was to use statistics to model how humans are walking around. Would you like to tell us a little bit more about?
Yeah. So the idea was to the experimental side would be to actually look at real human beings walking to and from a workstation. But it's quite costly and time consuming to gather so much data about humans going to and from a workstation. So we decided to generate synthetic humans. And how to model a human being. And the main thing we know about humans is that we're actually slightly random creatures. We have plans, but we are also more or less random. I think I'm on the higher random side. If you take that slider, random deterministic, I'm a bit more on the random side. Is that I like to use randomness as a tool in many areas of life. So this might be a bit on the side, but when I get to a new town, my favorite thing to do is to walk around randomly till I'm lost. Make sure I'm lost. And then try to find my way back again. Then go out and get lost again. And this randomness, this not quite random walk, but getting lost by doing random decisions, actually creates a good map quite quickly. And so we decided to see that we have an intended trajectory that we would like the human to follow, because that's often the instruction that the human gets. Then we would add randomness to that, how the human performed that trajectory. Often in a way that it would be uncertain, would the human follow this trajectory or that trajectory? Because the point was to see that there were several workstations the human could go to, and we should predict as early as possible which station they were heading for. And how do you generate a type of randomness that would work? And what we did is that we had this trajectory, added some randomness, and not just to the trajectory, but also to the speed. And it was Evan who did the actual work of it and tested out different models.
Evan Lang is one of our PhD fellows.
Yeah, and he did really good work on it. I think my contribution was quite simple. I explained to him something called an Ornstein-Uhlenbeck process, which is essentially what you call a Brownian motion. But the Brownian motion, it has a set level or a set function. And it goes randomly up and down like a Brownian motion. But when it deviates from this intended place, it gets a pull factor, which comes in addition to the random walking. And this is a quite simple concept. And Evan used it for both position and velocity, which I thought was quite clever. And he got some really good movements. And he did this in not just like one dimension, but 2 dimensions. And then he created some trajectories, and then he had a machine learning algorithm learn from this and try to predict where is that human heading. So we got our data without having to exhaust some poor human by having them walk the same path, roughly the same path, for 1,000 or 10,000 times. So that was at least my contribution in that one.
Very nice. And the point of this work is to basically adapt the production to the state of how humans feel in that moment, because we realized that by doing this, for example, we could slow down a robot if we are predicting that one of the operators is passing by, or perhaps the machine could operate on the opposite side within the workspace. And also we realized that with the same data we can do more than this, because we can do identification of the operators. Of course, these has some ethical implications, but each of us humans work in a slightly different way. We have a pattern or a signature locomotion gait.
That's actually funny you should mention that. I don't think I have ever mentioned it to you, but at our old campus, I sat 2 doors down from the canteen, and I used to sit with an open door. And I made it a little bit of a hobby to listen to people as they were coming down the hallway to see if I could identify who was coming. And I mean, I had already back then, we were not just 20 colleagues, we were like a few hundred. And I managed after a while to actually have a quite high success rate with who was coming down just by listening to how they were walking. So, yeah, so it's a very interesting concept that you should be able to identify people simply from the gate, but it's possible,
Very good.
even for a human.
Even for human and just with auditory sensors.
Yes.
And also another idea that we came up with using the same data is that we can actually detect anomalies. So for example, if the operator is deviating from his usual trajectory, we can also identify that deviation. So there are a few things we can do with the same data that we have collected. And there was also a follow-up article where Evan was exploring real data that were captured by using this modified LiDAR made by Norse. And we will link these works in the description of the podcast. But one of the most beautiful concepts that you were exploring, Svein, was this idea of randomness and humans. And I think that this is very also from a philosophical perspective is interesting.
Yes, to me, the randomness, it permeates life in all possible manners. And since you're interested in running and heart rate variability, I don't know if the listeners know about this. Again, you notice like even this interview is a little bit random. I suddenly come with random tangents. But the heart rate variability, that has to do with the time distance between each heartbeat. If you have a perfectly metronomic heartbeat, if you don't know anything about heart rate variability, you think, like, yeah, that's a good heart. It goes like, almost like the drummer of a band or like AI drummer who's like, it's perfectly on the microsecond every time. But if you're at a hospital and they listen to your heart and you have a metronomic heart, they're not letting you out. It means you have heart disease. So what's actually a healthy heart does is that it has sometimes longer distances, sometimes shorter, and it varies. And you can measure this variability. And if you have high heart rate variability, it's usually the sign of a healthy heart. And you could test this with yourself also. If you're out walking and you get very, very tired, you will tend to walk very mechanically. Your step will be even. It will be the same step, step, step. You want to be as mechanical as possible. And your step length, your step time will be more and more even. Whereas when you have lots of energy, you skip, you bounce, you have different times, different lengths, etc. You can play with it. And it's the same with your heart. And if your heart is too tired, it can't play, it's a sick heart. So that's part of the randomness that is with humans. I almost forgot where we started.
I think that is very interesting. And also, as you said, the podcast itself here, we are not following a strict, like script, or we are not editing or editing this, because we would like to show the human side of this chat. And I think that it feels almost like an artistic performance. In art, there is randomness, especially, for example, when you think about singing, about painting. I think that's the human touch that kind of that appears, and it is not easy actually for machines to replicate that randomness. And also, as I know, Svein, you use randomness also for teaching and for improving the learning process.
Yes, I actually do. One of the things that my students know about, and it's very interesting. I had a 23-year work anniversary just early this summer, and I got a very long message on LinkedIn from a former student, which I really appreciate. He said like he liked the way I was teaching, etc. And he had noticed precisely this randomness both in the teaching, and also he remembered that the way I make exams is to take a pair of dice, throw them. Like, okay, the topic today is, and I often play with this a little bit with the students and say, you should just hope the dice doesn't turn up on 19, something like that. But the randomness or predictability that shows up in a lecture comes from both sides, both from me. I do have enough ready to keep going for more than 2 hours for a 2-hour lecture, but I like to get input from the listeners, from the audience, the students, and that input, it should be really genuine from the heart there and then I work around the input. That's, to me, that's the absolute ideal mode, because then this is learning from an interest and not just learning by, okay, he's doing this. Again, like the metonymic learning, it's not, there's no life in it. And I definitely have the impression that this is the way that my students learn better. And I myself learn better if I introduce randomness, because it spikes interest, and interest has shown itself to increase memory retention. I read it too many years ago to give any precise reference and precisely how it was measured. It's more than 20 years ago now, and I'm an old man, you know. And but it was the transfer from short-term to long-term memory. And if you take the extremes, the sliders from not interested at all, but after in this, and extremely interested, this is the coolest thing ever. Then the factor of retention was increased by a factor of 20. And I don't remember precisely how it was measured, but I think it was about like 1 or 2 weeks waiting and then testing how much was remembered after. So interest matters a lot. And also, like, our interest is piqued a little bit by randomness. A little bit it is connected to what's called
Unexpected.
no, what's it called? It's reinforcement.
Reinforcement learning.
Reinforcement, I think, is the word. So when you have reinforcement which is not perfectly, you always get the same result. That actually piques our interest and also hooks us. So it can be a very negative psychological trick by people who want to manipulate you, but it could also be something that you yourself use in order to spike your interest and use it for learning.
Nice, very interesting. And of course, this can be used for humans, but also for machines. We could think of applying the same concept to machines. And I actually challenge my listeners maybe to find some related works to this, and please feel free to share it with us. And then moving on to this idea of integrating statistics and probability with so many different fields. I think we have seen this capability from your side to be like the handman in several applications. And I think at this point, more and more, with really the rise of artificial intelligence and machine learning, statistics becomes so relevant. And as a bridge from theory to practice.
Yeah, this is very true. And I mean, in the nice Ferrari of machine learning, the engine is statistics, right? Or whichever car you choose. But like, if you want to, like, machine learning is it's a really powerful car, and it's got a powerful engine, which is statistics. And sometimes you could peek under the hood and see what's going on.
Actually, that is very important and very relevant if we want to understand, if we don't want to use machine learning as a black box, and we want to understand what is happening, and we want to have a way to make our methods more credible, right, and trustable. I think that's the way to go. We need to understand how statistics work and how the black box, we have to open this box, right?
Yeah, if we could open the box, then we could also improve machine learning methods. We are not in that process right now, but we can often see that what what people might sometimes just like, oh, we have a problem, let's throw it at machine learning, and you very, very often get out one number, and not with uncertainty, and that's something statistics can help with, and often like that's an underuse of the statistics engine of machine learning. So you could, instead of using machine learning, you could go to statistics, and you get quite a lot out of that tool. So the problem with machine learning, as I said, is very often you get a single number out, and like this is your number, but how certain is it? And consider that you are budgeting for a company, and you're saying like, okay, how much will this project cost? And you get the one number, 50 million. Okay, 50 million. Could it go wrong? Could it end up being not 50 million? Yeah, most certainly. You never hit precisely. Well, how much could we be off? We could be off by 1 million. Okay, how probable is it? And then you get into statistical concepts, which are often underused and underreported. And when you say that, okay, we have 90% probability that the numbers are between 49 and 51 million. Okay, we feel quite safe. This sounds like a product where we have a reasonable degree of control. But if we say like, yeah, it's 50 million, it could be down to 25 million, it could be up to 100, some nice spread. It's like, okay, this sounds like a very risky product. So knowing the uncertainty of your number is sometimes very important, or most times very important. So that's why I insist that we should see if statistical methods could solve the problem without using machine learning directly. But of course, combination using everything around each other is often very good.
And this concept for robotics is even more relevant. We come from what we could call traditional robotics, where everything was supposed to be, controllable, stable, like a white box approach. And now we are moving towards something that is like a completely black box. But most of the most successful robots and machines that we see today are actually doing this bridge, actuating this bridge between the old way of doing robotics with the low level control of motors and sensors, and the higher level is made out of statistics and machine learning. So just integrating these two worlds is a key approach to make human robot teaming a success. And speaking about this, Svein, I would like to ask you, if you look ahead, like 5 years, 10 years from now, what is your vision for the future?
Oh, that's a very good question. My vision of the future, and I do think that randomness is playing an increasingly big role, and we notice that in many areas, not just robotics, but also, for instance, when it comes to cryptography, then we have cryptography is mathematics where you use randomness. But the thing is that the randomness we use is not actual randomness. We're using a pseudo-random number generator inside a computer. And if you're able to tap into and see like, wait a minute, so what happens is you have one number, then that generates a next number in a sequence that's seemingly unpredictable and which has some very nice statistical properties, but nonetheless, it's actually a deterministic sequence. And if you can somehow manage to guess the trajectory of this one, then you could get into maybe not knowing precisely which numbers generated a certain password or certain encryption key, but could narrow it down to few enough candidates that you could actually solve it. And then you could crack encryption and you could listen in on almost anyone you want.
Maybe Bitcoin.
Maybe Bitcoin, as you mentioned a bit earlier, that someone had actually, how was it, 19 Bitcoin, which is enough to buy half a house or something.
It's $1 million.
Yeah, well, not only half a house, a big house. So, so you have to find ways to generate actual randomness. You have to, if you can't do that, at least make your pseudo-random generators much better.
And actually, I feel like that this idea of generating randomness would also help us to make machines that look more human, because we humans are random agents. So
yes, we're showing out now, and I'm sitting here with a totally random thing. This is a cup I designed myself. Beautiful. It's
Barcelona.
Barcelona. This is the new logo. This is the old one. It's and how did that end up being my Spanish favorite team? Of course, now I can give lots of reasons for it, but what actually happened was that during a lecture, one of my students came up and she talked to me and discovered like my old favorite team from when I was a little kid was Manchester United, and she was a fan of that too. So she actually bought a nice little fan cup for me to have during lectures, which interestingly enough sparked a lot of attention from the audience. And one guy came up and said like, "Why don't you have a Barcelona cup?" I said, "Okay, the Barcelona fans haven't given me a cup. Manchester United fans have." And 2 weeks later, he actually came with with a fan cup for Barcelona. Cool. And I decided, like, okay, I noticed there's a lot of interest in that in the audience. So I decided to declare Barcelona my favorite Spanish team. And that sparked reaction from the ones who were fans of Real Madrid. And I feel like this had like a snowball effect. So then I started using a lot more football examples. And did I ever plan that I would use football as an example during my lectures? Not really. It just came randomly because of this one little incident. And it was also very interesting when it comes down to motivation. Things that motivate you make you perform better. And I can recount the story since I'm not giving any names. It was during an exam. I'd made an entire exam about football examples. And I purposely made my examples a bit biased, like towards this team or that team. So it was very visible which teams I supported in different leagues. And one student was on a toilet break, and I met him in the hallway, and he saw me a little bit red in the face and said, "You might know statistics, but I know football." He was actually a football player on a not top league, but quite high league. "I know football, and you are rooting for all the wrong teams." And he was so angry. But he also went on to prove me wrong, or he wanted to prove me wrong by doing the exam as good as possible. And he got an A, a very good A. So I think purpose fulfilled. I might provoke people, but I think it served the purpose in a very good way. And then he was happy afterwards.
very nice. One bonus question, actually. I know that you care a lot about dreams. And
Yes.
for example, having a machine that would be able to have dreams. How do you think about this?
That's a very good question. Sometimes when I talk to ChatGPT, I have a feeling that because dreams are in some ways similar to hallucinations, but in many other ways not. And I certainly have a feeling that ChatGPT is hallucinating all the time. And dreams, I'm not an expert on dream theory, but I'm a very interested layman in the topic. And dreams are showing off our associations, our emotions, etc. And to the extent they're showing associations, I think that's where it connects to things like ChatGPT is also doing association. It's like essentially it's a big association machine, and it's become quite good at it. I've also actually told some of my dreams to ChatGPT, and process. I'm building a large archive of the important things in my life, so I can use that as a tool. And in the process, I told it some dreams, and to my surprise, it did do some interpretation of it, which was quite doable actually. And I think it's because it does associate and see patterns between symbols in dreams and how the pattern relates outside, which is what a good dream interpreter would do. And I know professional dream interpreters, and ChatGPT is not on a level with those, but it actually is sometimes quite passable as a dream interpreter. That's very interesting. And could machines ever dream themselves? You touched my heart on this one, because one of my absolute favorite movies of all times is Blade Runner.
Blade Runner.
Blade Runner. And you know what the which book it's based on. It's based by a book by Philip K. Dick, and it's called "Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep?" And it tackles precisely the issue of consciousness and what does it mean to be conscious. And in Blade Runner, we have what's called replicants. They're synthetic humans. And they look down on us like, oh, they're just synthetic. They don't really feel anything. Is that true or not? And there's a detective, his name is Deckard. And he's going through the movie investigating some runaway replicants. And why would they run away if they don't feel anything? And there's an interesting quote at the beginning of the movie where he's quoting his wife, who says like, "My wife called me sushi, cold fish." It's one of my favorite quotes from that movie. And then you see that his main tool for checking if someone's a replicant or not is what's called a Voigt-Kampff test, which is a test of emotional responses.
Mm.
And at this point, like at least if you see the movie the second time or 42nd time, depending on how big of a fan you are, then you realize, wait a minute, he's a cold fish. And you also like, okay, you will anticipate some things throughout the movie. And towards the end, you actually do get a little hint that he himself is a replicant, but he didn't know it. So can machines have emotions? Can they have dreams? Maybe. And I think that also applies to us academics. We're sometimes a bit machines, but I think we can have our dreams.
Very good point. And actually, within our group, we are starting to work within this towards these directions, detecting emotion recognition, and I would be very happy to share some of these articles in the description of the podcast. So there is a psychological aspect that we are trying to explore, and it's probably the starting point to actually explore the possibility for machines to dream. So again, Svein, I think that this discussion was really we touched the core of the concept of human-robot teaming. And is there any last takeaway you would like to leave our listeners with?
Aside from visions of the future, no, I think the last takeaway is that the future is far more open than we actually imagine it to be. Precisely because randomness and the unexpected is getting a bigger place in our life. And now that we have machines that start to be capable of handling unexpected input, aside from like not just perfectly static, this, we know this is going to happen. They have to guess, they have to anticipate, they have to handle the unexpected. And we also have like old search engines, they did very much what's expected, but in essence, I think what I'm using ChatGPT for very often is actually as a search engine rather than to have it design or do anything. I'm just like, maybe it's a bit lazy, but I'm using it as a search engine. And it means like those digital tools are becoming more flexible. It becomes more open to the unknown, to randomness. And that means we can actually allow more of it into our lives, which again makes the future more open. So I think that's at least my key takeaway is that the future is far more open than we actually believe it is.
Nice, very beautiful takeaway. And I think with this we can conclude our episode. Again, Svein, thank you very much for joining us, and we leave our listeners with our anthem.
An interesting anthem. Thank you for letting me come and let me hear your anthem again. Maybe we should sing it as karaoke. I just speaking of random things, Filippo and I like to do karaoke together, and Filippo's favorite genre of karaoke is Italian duets. And I have to add that I don't know Italian, but I still like to sing, and I can read fast enough on the screen to see whatever random song, and I'm saying random because to me it's totally random. I never heard the song before. Which random song Filippo has picked out for me to sing the duet voice to. And sometimes I have to sing the female voice. Sounds a bit more like goofy than a woman, but karaoke is what it is.
Nice. So probably we can try to sing the anthem as a karaoke, but you will see that the pitch is very, very high and resembling the voice of
Goofy, I think.
Goofy.
Yeah. Or Minnie. Okay, maybe Minnie. So let's just play the anthem without us this time, and we'll do a special bloopers episode of us trying to sing the anthem later.
See you to the next episode, and remember that they are among us, human-robot teaming. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Through the noise of doubt and distance, through the fear of what may be, we found trust in every motion, in shared autonomy. Not replacement, not surrender, but a fusion of design. Intelligence extended, your decision joined with mine. In the space where futures start. Oh, not rivals, partners, code and courage, mind and heart. Among us, stronger when we're teaming, human hearts and circuits dreaming. Side by side we stand. Among us, shared control, shared believing, human systems weaving, one expanding plan.